Thanks for tuning in to the weekly podcast, Hooked on Wooden Boats. This is episode number 164. This is Dan Matson. I will be your host today as usual, also known as Wooden Boat Dan. And this is the world's first podcast that's completely dedicated to celebrating and having fun talking about the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the globe. Thanks for joining me today, folks. Good to have you on board. We plan to have fun today, as usual, talking about wooden boats, and our featured segment today is an interview I did with Brian Chandler of Dreamcatcher Boats in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's a really fun interview. Brian's come up with his own methods and designs of building skin-on-frame rowboats and canoes, etc. And it's a great interview, so stick around for that. Today's podcast is brought to you by Duckworks Boat Building Supply in Harper, Texas. This is an American-owned small business run by husband and wife team Chuck and Sandra, who are friends of mine. And they sell everything boat. And what I mean by that is everything from sales to plans to books to hardware to resin to screws to tools. Just about everything you can imagine that you would use to build a boat or repair a boat or outfit a boat. Chuck and Sandra have it. They've got great prices, excellent customer service, and they're just great people. So I would encourage you to go check out their website at hookedonwoodenboats.com/duck. That's the easiest way to get there through my link, hookedonwoodenboats.com/duck, D-U-C-K, and tell them Wooden Boat Dan sent you. I would appreciate it. Also, if you buy products on Amazon, I would encourage you to go through my link. And if you do go through my link before you make your purchase, I get a small commission, which helps support the podcast. And that link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. Again, hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. And thanks for doing that. I've got folks doing that. It brings a little money each month, which is really awesome. I appreciate it a lot. If you would like to subscribe to my almost monthly newsletter, go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. Give me your first and last name and email address, and I'll put you on the list, and you should get a newsletter later this month. It'll be my third newsletter of the year, so I'm pretty much on track this year, even though my February one went out the last day of February instead of the middle of February. But anyway, check it out, hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. I did a little reading online in the last week about the race to Alaska, how that's shaping up. For those of you that don't know, it's a human-powered race between Port Townsend, Washington, and Ketchikan, Alaska, about 500 miles. Starts June, I can never remember if it's June 4th or June 5th, weather permitting. First person to get to Ketchikan, or team to get to Ketchikan, gets $10,000 cash. Second place is a set of steak knives from Walmart, probably something like that. That's how they advertise it. Anyway, it's shaping up to be pretty interesting. Last time I checked, there were 20 entrants, including a gentleman on a stand-up paddleboard. Yes, that's right. There's a dude that's going to paddle standing up from Port Townsend to Ketchikan. And if you want to enter the race, you can do so until April 15th. What I plan on doing is interviewing Jake Beatty between April 15th, before the race starts, in April or May, to talk about how things are shaping up for the first annual race to Alaska. It should be pretty exciting. There's a lot of buzz going around, and I have a feeling this event is going to be around for a while, so it's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. I'm a little disappointed I didn't see anybody doing the race in a scamp. I suppose that could still happen. Maybe a scamp's not an ideal boat for that. I don't know. It's not a great, I guess it rows pretty good, actually, if you've got long enough oars. But it's really intended for sailing, and I think on this race you need a boat that sails and rows exceptionally well. I think my money would be on Colin Angus, who's going to take one of his row cruisers with his partner, a gentleman from the Midwest. I forget his name. He holds the record for most pull-ups in a 24-hour period, which he set that record when he was in his mid-50s, I believe. Pretty interesting. Colin, I would think, and his partner would be pretty hard to beat, but I'm sure it's going to be a great competition. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Google and just type in Race to Alaska, and you'll get the Facebook page and some other info out there. It's pretty cool. They've got their own page, actually, r2ak.com, I believe. Don't quote me on that one, however. Okay, we're going to move on to the interview with Brian Chandler of Dreamcatcher Boats in Vancouver, British Columbia. And by the way, the name Dreamcatcher Boats is something we discussed during the interview, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, take it away, Brian. It is February 23rd, 2015. I am on the phone with Brian Chandler of Dreamcatcher Boats. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
All right, thank you, Dan.
I emailed Brian yesterday morning and said, hey, I do a podcast. Would you like to be on it? And he said, sure. So I appreciate you doing that.
You're very welcome. I mean, I love showing off, so any old time is good for me.
Okay, very good. So Brian is in Vancouver, BC. He has a business called Dreamcatcher Boats, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Brian, maybe we could start with a brief biography of yourself. Maybe tell us about your youth and where you grew up and what you did.
Well, you know, people ask me all the time how I learned, how I got into this, you know, and basically the only real answer I've got for them is that it's just a mental disease. I really don't. I don't think I ever had a choice. You know, I had to be doing this, and it turned out when I hit 50, it turned out that I finally figured out that everything I'd done up to then, and I've done every lousy job under the sun. Everything I'd done up to that was so that one day I could build myself a boat, and then basically, I was still afraid to build a boat. Even though, you know, I've done, like I said, you know, everything, construction, cabinet making, jewelry, leatherwork. I've done a whole bunch of different things, right? Yeah. I was still afraid to build a boat. So what I ended up doing was inventing a boat that I could build. Mm-hmm. And it turned out when I did that I was actually reinventing a traditional boat building method. So I sort of whittled down boat building down to absolute nothing, and I built it up from there. And like I said, coincidentally, just reinventing an antique method of building a boat.
Did you do any boating as a kid, Brian?
No. As a matter of fact, I never did.
Really? Okay. Where did you live as a kid?
What's that?
Where did you grow up at?
I was born in Morocco, and I lived there basically until the home was there until I was about 15. But I had started going to school in England when I was 9, so I was basically technically living in Morocco, but actually not there that much. So that was about it. And, you know, I remember a few times I was at the beach and I saw boats, rowboats. And there was one place I remember that at low tide, there was an island in the middle of this cove. And there was a kid there with a rowboat, and he'd row you out to the island and for a pittance. And I think we actually did it once. But, I mean, I remember just standing there looking and wishing I was over there. That's the thing. I always wanted to be over there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
That was it for me.
Now, what were your parents doing in Morocco?
My father was stationed there during the war. My mother was already hiding there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he was in the RAF and liked it so much that he decided to invent himself. Because he came from England, he came from a poor working class family, but he knew back then that there was no future for him back in England because he was still a working class. So he decided to stay in Morocco and invent himself as something else, and he made an amazing job. He had visions of grandeur, and he made them come true. He was really quite a remarkable man, my old man.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when did you make it over to Canada then?
Canada. I was selling jewelry and leatherwork on the fence in Hyde Park in London, and which is a place where this is on a Sunday. This is what people do on what people did, and I think still do, and have done for a very long time in London. You can hang your stuff on the fence around Hyde Park, and you're not obstructing traffic, so that you don't get nicked by the cops, and so that's what the craftsmen, artisans, everybody does that on Sunday in Hyde Park. And that's exactly what I was doing. And the Canadian woman who came by and ended up taking me home.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, so that's so then you made your way to Canada at that point.
Yeah, I ended up here, and I went from here. Actually, I was started off, I don't know if you're familiar with Oxford Street, but it's the busiest street in the world, or at least it was then. And so every single day, I would see a good 100,000 people walk past me. And I realized one day that out of all the people who walked past me, out of the hundreds of millions, because I used to sell on Oxford Street as well, out of the, at least tens and tens and tens of millions that walked past me, I could count the people who had an influence on my life on the fingers of one hand, and I went a little bananas. And anyhow, what happened is I came to Canada. I was in Victoria for about a month, and I went straight up to Port Hardy, the place that you had to want to get to. You know, there was no road up there. You had to take a couple of ferries, and eventually made it up there, and it's all pioneer land. And I was living in the bush. I lived in the bush for about 3 years up there. And it turned out, actually, that I was, even though I came from London, from a huge city, I was actually better equipped for living in the bush than most of the people who lived up there. So I did very well.
Really?
Yeah.
So what does that look like, living in the bush? For those of us that are used to the modern conveniences of life.
To tell you the truth, is one of the few times in my life where I was just happy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I didn't have any stress. My entire day was circled around finding something to eat, and I had a little camper trailer I lived in the bush. I had no rent, I had no electricity, I had no nothing, and nothing was plenty for me, you know.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds pretty simple.
It was simple, yeah.
Yeah. So you did that for 3 years?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then were you starting to get into boats at that point yet?
I bought my first boat then, but I had no idea. I had no idea about anything back then. I mean, I really didn't know. I knew absolutely nothing. And as a matter of fact, I eventually had my first, I had a little fish boat. It was a little fish boat, 28 feet long and 6 feet wide. It was really tiny. And I was sleeping in it one night, and I remember hearing this gush. And I woke up and I went to see what was happening, and I saw this little fountain coming out in the middle of the floor somewhere. And it never occurred to me to stick a dowel or a piece of wood in that hole, in that nail hole. So what I did is I stuck some dehydrated mashed potatoes in there, and then and if they expanded and filled the hole, I went back to bed, you know. I really knew nothing. I knew nothing about woodworking. Really, I would have been a lot safer if I'd thought of putting anything, you know. Like I said, a dowel, a toothpick, something, you know.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's my story as far as that goes.
Yeah, so kind of tell us about how you got into your current occupation and line of work and hobby.
Well, like I said, it was, you know, I can only call it a mental disease, you know. And eventually, I had a subscription to Wooden Boat magazine for a few years, and every time Wooden Boat magazine came out, there were like 20 boats in there that I wanted to build. Well, you know how it is, right? And you look at these things and you get all these fantasies, and you know, I want this one and I want this one and that one. And one day I just got fed up, and I said it's time to piss or get off the pot, you know. So I canceled my subscription, and I decided that from now on I was going to start building boats. So it just started from there. I took a business course, and I started designing and drawing out boats and inventing a boat building method that would work for me. I used to visit Robert Morris every now and again, Brewery Creek, when they were down on Granville Island. And I was trying to figure out. I was trying to make laminated ribs for my boats, so that I could make a whole bunch of laminated ribs and eventually build those. So I tried it a few times, and it just didn't work out. They too much spring back on those things. I couldn't get them to work accurately. And I went to see. I was there one day, and I immediately got. I saw the way they were bending the ribs, and I immediately got the impression that. The idea that I could do exactly the same thing and bend the ribs. And then another day I was there. I saw them lashing the ribs because they were building kayaks. They were building Greenland kayaks and whatnot, right? They weren't doing canoes. I do canoes and rowboats and a different style of kayak, but not the Greenland one. I just don't feel that... you know, I'm not going to go out hunting whales. I'm 65 years old, and I'm too fat and lazy to even think about it, you know?
Yeah.
So I figured that I wanted to... And it turned out, you know, during the course of time, I mean, obviously this took a long time. Most of my customers look like me, and I keep looking at them and wondering, why on earth would you want to go out hunting whales? One of those kayaks, you know? So I started building deck canoes. Canoes and rowboats. Mostly everything is based on Rushton stuff because I really like the looks of it. And I was in the library one day and I picked up a copy of Atwood Manley's Rushton and His Times in American Canoeing. So and he had the offsets in there. So I took on I worked out the offsets, and then I drew the station molds, and then I invented a strong back that was simple enough for me to use, and it turned out that I did it. You know, maybe it's because I'm just that simple, But it turned out that what I did was so bloody simple that anybody can build a boat now. I've had 12-year-olds build a boat. In fact, I've got a 13-year-old building a boat right now. His dad showed up late yesterday, just in time to watch us finish the day's project, right? So it's fun, you know. And something I get out of it really is, I mean, if I'm dealing with a kid like that, I have never had a kid that I really did not enjoy working with. I mean, I love it. They listen, they pay attention, they learn, and they get a lot out of it. But what they don't realize is that they get an entire lifetime's worth of experience out of that. One that I wish I'd had with my dad. You know, I never did get to do something like that with my dad. He was always too busy. And so when somebody approaches me about the possibility of doing it with a kid, I'm all over them, right? The idea is fantastic. And families, of course. These are some of I'm just sort of shooting my mouth off here, but these are some of my favorite people, really, because families get to be in a relationship together, doing something all together that none of them know how to do, but all of them are picking up. And they're making it as a team, and they're enjoying the process. They're enjoying the fact of being together. Some of my favorites of all were a set of triplets from last summer, right? I mean, you know, you can't buy that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And the whole family was there. The triplets, the eldest son, the father, and the mother, and they told me afterwards it was the best vacation they ever spent. I should have paid them, you know.
Yeah, right.
You know, it was fantastic, and the people I've had out there are just the most amazing people with dreams, you know, and obviously many people who have barely ever held a tool in their life, who end up with. And it's almost instant gratification. It takes a few days, and you end up with a beautiful, beautiful little boat, that lovely little boat. And you know, I make these dreams come true. I mean, that's part of the basis of the name Dreamcatcher Boats, right? It's when the name came by in a session that I had during when I was taking a business class. We separated into groups and decided to come up with a name for the business. And somebody asked me, well, what name do you want your business to have? And I said, I know, I want to call it, excuse me, I want to call it La Bohème. And they said, well, what's that? And I said, well, La Bohème, it's a time of your life when you're French, when you're free, and you have no obligations and you just love life. It's the bohemian way of life. And they said, well, that doesn't mean a bloody thing. And they say, well, what's it all about? And I said, well, it's all about dreams. And the girl said, well, why don't you call it Dreamcatcher Boats? And, you know, after a little bit of going back and forth, it became Dreamcatcher Boats. The logo is, I don't know if you've seen the logo, but the logo is basically a boat being a part of a dream catcher. And what I do is I make other people's dreams come true, and it's just that's what I get out of it, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long have you been doing this, Brian?
I've been doing these particular boats for 15 years now.
Yeah. So describe to us the construction of these boats. Tell us some of the details, how that works.
Well, it starts with a strong back. I have my own method of building a strong back, again, which I developed, and it's just absolutely dead simple, reasonable, logical, straightforward, and understandable. So the first thing I did is, because you know, I'm still afraid of building a boat the way the other guys do it. I have no idea how they do it. I'm always afraid of I might have to throw the boat away if I'm off by, you know, a 1/16 of an inch here or there, right? My method of construction is completely forgiving, and you can customize it on the fly. You can lengthen it, widen it, change everything you want on the fly. And on the fly means like you can start with something in the morning and end up with something completely different 3 times over in the afternoon without any problem. You can do that with my boats. One of the things I learned when I was a kid from the cultures that I was a part of was only God is perfect. So part of what I do, part of the video is a rant I go on about the pretty police. The pretty police are the people that stop you when you're trying to get your boat in the water and ask you where you got it, how you did it, did you do it yourself, what's this, what's that, and how come you didn't do this, how come you did that, and how come you did... You know what? What I say in the video is completely true. You can't hear the pretty police from out in the water. Right? They're still standing on the dock wondering what's going on. And that's basically what I was before. I was wondering how to do this and why to do that, and I couldn't figure it out. So I ended up building a boat my own way, and it's it starts with a strong back. The strong back is very simple and straightforward. In the video, I go and I explain the whole thing, why do you do this, how to do that, and how to do it the simplest possible way. And basically, when you put the strong back together, whether you're a 12-year-old or an experienced boat builder, both of whom I've had, when they put the strong back together and the station molds on there, it is foolproof. All you got to do is follow the instructions. Everything stands up plumb and level, and then you can change the length if you want any way you want. You can change things then. I'm not sure if I explained how to change the actual stations themselves, how to widen the boat, how to make station molds on the fly. But I mean, I'm always here to explain that to people if they call me up, right? So I'm always happy. Like I said, I'm always happy to show off. So now you've got your station molds, and you got your strong back, you got your station mold on top of it, and then you lash the stringers. You attach the stringers to the station mold, and then you bend the ribs in and lash the ribs in and put on the gunwale. You finish off the ends, and in the video I show you how to make a compound, how to make that angle at the ends, how to cut a compound angle by hand, which is like a really tough. It's a hard. It's a major step in any kind of woodworking is how to make a compound angle. Doing it by eye is even better. And then the gunwales go on, the floors go in, the breast hooks go in, the thwarts go in now or later. It doesn't make any difference, and the skin goes on, and away you go.
What do you have to steam the ribs before you put them on, before you bend them on?
Thanks for asking that. Everybody asks me that question. Sometimes I steam the ribs. Most of the time, I get away without doing any steaming at all because I buy my wood rough and green. So I build the boats out of yellow cedar here because I can. Not because it's the only material that you have to build the boats. People build them out of whatever is locally available, whatever is locally appropriate, wherever they are. Because people build these boats in Tasmania and Spain and England, all over the States. So I keep telling people, find out from somebody what is appropriate in your neck of the woods. You do not need the yellow cedar, but like I said, I buy my lumber rough and green so that it's still alive and it bends nice and easily. If it's not going to work like that, then I will soak it. My favorite method is to soak it for a day or 2 days, and as in wrapping it up in a wet towel bring it back to life if I have to buy some KD stuff, right? Some kiln dried stuff.
Yeah.
Getting it wet brings it back to life. And if that doesn't work, then I will go to the effort of steaming it. But it's really, the steaming only, I've never had to steam more than the final end ribs. And if that doesn't work, then I will just laminate the ribs on the fly so that I can keep working. Instead of making the ribs 3/16, I make 3 ribs out of 1/16 or 1/8 and 1/16, and I glue them together so that they bend nice and easily, and I don't have to wait until tomorrow before I can keep going to work again, right? So there are ways of getting around without steaming it. Steaming it is cute, but the way I see it, for me, it's just a pain in the neck. It's just another step, and if I can avoid it, I do.
Yeah.
But in the video, I do teach people. I go into steaming. I show people how to do the steaming. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you're skinning your boats with ballistic nylon. Is that right?
Yeah. I use ballistic nylon because I've never seen anything better. And the way I sort of came across that, again, was thanks to Robert Morris at Brewery Creek Boats. But I had a klepper, and which I had redone completely, recanvassed and everything. I made my poor mother just sew up a brand new skin for that thing. And I went camping for a couple of weeks. And after about a week, I had 2 boats. I had a klepper and I had a wooden boat. I took the wooden boat, and after a few days, I came back in to try out the klepper, my brand spanking new klepper that I had left on the beach upside down where it would be safe until I came back for it. And the seagulls had pecked a hole through the skin.
Oh.
And I never got to use that klepper. But the thing is, they can't do that to the ballistic nylon. They can't do that. The polyester is the same. Some people use polyester, but sometimes when I put the skin on, I staple it on, and sometimes when I put the skin on, I have to move the staple. So with the ballistic nylon, I just pull on the skin, and the staple pops up. Oh, I did the same thing with the polyester skin, and the staple stayed in. The skin came off. The staple stayed in. So that's why I use the ballistic nylon. It's just tough. Yeah. You can't hurt that stuff.
And then how do you finish the nylon?
There are different kinds of different ways of doing it. Actually, the varnish and the trick to finishing the nylon is to drive whatever nothing sticks to nylon basically. So the trick to finish it is to drive whatever you're using on it through the skin, through the weave, so that it bonds to itself on the inside as well as on the outside around. It encapsulates the nylon, But you know what I've discovered recently, and I've tried it, I've experimented with it, but I haven't actually used it on a boat. I can't wait to get to it. But you know that stuff I've seen on TV, the one where they spray a screen door and they use it as the bottom of a boat.
I haven't seen that.
They spray a screen door with this I've seen on TV stuff. And then they take off, and that screen, and the boat is fine; it doesn't leak. So in the conversation, I thought, well, this is really cute, blah blah blah. I'm not going to try it. I don't trust anything. But in the conversation with one of my students, he said, "You ever thought about using that stuff?" And I said, "No." And then we talked about it for a while, and it sounded like a really good idea. It sounded like it was worth experimenting with. So I found some around here, and you know what? I'm going to try it on a boat. I'm going to try it on a boat. That stuff, you can get it in colors, you can get it clear, you can get it black, and it works. So I may be doing my boats with that. And the thing about the clear stuff is I can probably spray the inside with it, and I'm not quite sure how well it's going to show up on the wood on the inside, but it looked, the experiment that I did, I actually couldn't see it on the wood. So it might be my new best friend.
Wow, cool. But typically you've done.
I'm going to give it a shot anyway.
Yeah, typically
It's fun playing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but typically you've used varnish on them. Is that right? Or
Hello.
Are you there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, you disappeared for a moment.
Okay, it's my Skype connection, I guess. Sorry about that. Yeah, well, that's cool. So probably easier to use than varnish, huh?
Well, the gigantic advantage it has, it may be opening the door to me for making flexible folding boats, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh, wow is right, yeah. So I might be able to make a folding boat with ballistic nylon, which would be really cool.
Yeah. How many different designs do you have, Brian?
How many what?
How many boat designs do you have?
Well, on the website, I specialize in 3 of them right now. The 14.5-foot Rushton rowboat, which has 2 rowing stations and will sit like 3 or 4 adults. And nice. It's actually a short Adirondack guide boat, a lovely little boat. And then I have the big Lassie, which is an extrapolation from Rushton's wee Lassie, and I have the free Lassie, which is, again, my version of Rushton's wee Lassie. Recently, I have had I started selling full-size plans, as in full-size station models, so people can download the plans right off of the website and either print them out on their own printer and glue them together with Scotch tape, or put them on a stick and take them to a printer and have them printed out full size, with a full size being actually just a 1/2 of the mirror image of some of them. So they have to make they make a mirror image of whatever it is they've got, and then they can just cut that out, and there's no lofting. They have, so now for the free Lassie, the big Lassie, and the Rushton rowboat, lofting is passé. Ain't nothing, there's nothing, no more to be done. All you got to do is take the plan, put it on a piece of wood, and cut around it, right? So that particular thing, which is a major handicap for a lot of people, and it certainly was for me, is gone. So, and now I'm having the plans actually, I'm having them printed out a separate way. I'm having them cut out on a laser cutter full size, so people don't even have to cut them out. They just get the actual station mold, the actual full size station mold on a piece of paper itself. So all they got to do is open up whatever envelope they get, take it out, put it on a piece of wood, draw around it, and cut the wood out. So I'm really happy with that, and I'm going to keep doing that and adding more and more and more plans as I can, because lofting is, with this method, lofting is a thing of the past. So you don't have to be afraid of doing it wrong, because you're not going to do it wrong. You can't.
Yeah. Wow.
And then on putting it together on the strong back, and if you follow my instructions to build a strong back, which apparently nobody's ever had any trouble, then everything is going to turn out plumb, square, level, and it doesn't matter if the ground that you're on is on a 25-degree angle. The boat is still going to come out perfectly well, because it's built on the mold itself. It doesn't matter about the level of the ground that you're on. You could build these things in your living room. There's no smells to these things, right? There's no poison. The only glue I use is in the gunwale. In the video, I didn't even use glue. The gunwale was a narrower piece, a single piece. Not my gunwale is actually a 3-part laminated piece, and it's much, much tougher, and it almost dispenses with thwarts altogether, so you can have a wide open boat. And of course, these boats, you can deck them as you want. You can leave them open. You can put a skirt on them. You can sail them. You can row them. You can do whatever you want, right? They're beautifully versatile boats. And I bought a sail rig from a kayak sailor. They are down in Oregon someplace, a young couple who have come up with this fabulous sail rig, which fits in almost like it's just a big guitar case. It fits in there, so you can actually walk. It weighs 10 pounds. You can walk around with that thing, and it lashes onto any boat up to 3 feet wide. And basically, you're sitting back in the boat, and you pull on the string, and the mast raises and doubles in size. The sail comes up with it. Also, a jib that comes up with it. It's a completely balanced sail rig. It's got the leebows and that kind of stuff. And all you got to do is be sitting there in your tiny little boats, pulling on a string, and everything just pops up, and you're sailing in seconds. And if you don't want to sail, let go of the string, and the whole thing folds itself away and flattens itself on the foredeck, right? So I sold one of these boats to a woman a while back, and she was, 5 feet tall or so, and about 65 or older. And she rigged the boat. She lashed this sail rig onto the boat, and I realized that she was sailing away from me in about 5 minutes. So she carried the boat down to the water by herself, a good 100, 200 feet. Carried the boat down to the water by herself with the sail rig, lashed it together about 5 minutes, and as she was sailing away from me, I realized that woman had a fully rigged sailboat with a balanced rig that weighed less than 33 pounds.
That's impressive.
So she was happy.
Yeah. Wow. What's that sail rig called?
It's from Kayak Sailor.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I think the company is called Kuvia or something, and they're not getting the recognition they deserve. It's absolutely magnificently brilliant sail rig.
Very cool.
Yeah, it makes sailing in an ultralight real simple. Real simple. Because the thing about being in a tiny boat is you can't stand up and walk around, fool around with a mast. You know.
Yeah.
You can't go up to the front of the mast and bring the sail down and furl it and stow it away. You can't do that in a small boat. You have to have something that you can access from your sitting position.
Interesting.
Mind you, I've lashed my boats together and turned them into catamaran, and that's a different thing altogether. But then that means that the setup takes longer. Now you got 2 boats, and you got a trampoline, and you got all the sail rig and all that kind of stuff. So that's a much longer process. If you get a much bigger boat out of it, you actually can stand up and walk around between the 2 boats.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's a catamaran, but.
Well, Brian, I think we're going to wrap it up here, but what I'd like to do is have you give us your contact information for your business and tell us if people are more interested in your boats, what the best way to get a hold of you and get more information is.
Well, the website is www.dreamcatcherboats.com. There's all the information you need on the websites. My contact number, they can contact me at either through the website at info@Dreamcatcher Boats, so they can contact me through my landline here is 604-873-0082. I'm always happy to talk to people, and if I'm not here, I will call them back. I've got. I just moved into a new shop now, so I'm in complete luxury. Before I was down at False Creek in Vancouver across from Science World in Dragon Zone, and so many people have seen me there and built boats. But I've now moved. We had a fire down there, so I had to find other locations. I'm hoping it's just temporary. But I have electricity and light, which makes a big difference, because before we had no power down there, and no heat. And I've got a bigger shop, so it's actually and there are hotels around. Some of them are not savory, and some of them are not too bad. And of course, we got all the high-end stuff. And there's probably a few B&Bs around too. So people can come here and basically I usually ask for 5 full days to build a big Lassie. That's a 2-person canoe. But it usually ends up taking a little bit longer, because full days are, when you're relaxed, full days are just too full. So it usually takes a couple of days longer, but we can do it in 5 days. We can do the small one in 3 days without too much trouble, and full days maybe, yeah. Cool. The rowboats, I actually don't teach the rowboat, but what I do with the rowboat is I accept help, because it's there's a fair amount of fiddly stuff in the rowboat. It takes quite a while, and I don't want to be sitting around waiting for people to catch up. So basically, I'm always happy to have help, so people can come and help me build the boat. But basically, I'm not going to sit around, my hands in my pocket, waiting for them to like I say, to catch up.
Yeah.
And then, we can build other boats as we choose. The Umiaks are becoming not so distant on the horizon right now, and Umiaks being a traditional Inuit or Eskimo freighter, nice big boat that it's big. It's and similar to somewhat like the Irish currachs, which will hold an elephant in horribly rough water. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I could keep going forever,
No,
so
that's okay. I appreciate it, Brian. Okay, so dreamcatcherboats.com is a place to get more information, and I appreciate being on the podcast today, Brian. Any parting comments for us?
Well, no, thank you, Dan. It was a great idea. Thanks for asking me, and I think your podcast is a great idea. The more people hear, the more people know.
Very good.
And it's fun to have a forum,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good. Okay, well, thanks again, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan, and good luck.
Okay, take care. Thanks, Brian, for hooking up by phone for the interview. It was really fun talking to you. I love the way that your business kind of evolved, and you kind of came up with your own ideas on how to do things and to keep it simple, to make the boats tough and durable and functional and all that stuff. And I wish you the best in the future. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in today, folks. Great to have you on board. And I appreciate any feedback you can give me about the podcast, how to improve it. Also, if you've got ideas for people I could interview in the future, I would appreciate if you would email those to me, woodenboatdan@gmail.com. I can't get to all of them, but I do take quite a few of the ideas and use them, and I appreciate that very much. Again, if you make purchases from Amazon, please go through my link, hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. And also you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube if you look for Wooden Boat Dan there. Have a great week. I hope you come back next week. Tell all your friends about this fine podcast about wooden boats. This is Wooden Boat Dan over and out. God bless. Have a great week. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. We will talk again next week. Thanks a lot.